tell us, when will these things be? And what will be the sign of your coming and of the end of the age?
The sign of the 4 blood moons. What is this teaching of the 4 blood moons? The teaching says that when 4 consecutive blood moons fall on Jewish feast days, a major event affecting the Jewish people will occur. 4 blood moons will occur on Jewish feast days between April 15, 2014 and September 28, 2015. It is believed that some great event will occur during this time that will change the world forever. Obviously, this time lies just ahead. Let's ask ourselves, first of all, what is a blood moon? A lunar eclipse occurs when the earth passes between the sun and the moon. This blocks the sun's rays from reflecting off the moon as normal. However, some of the sun's rays curve around the earth, causing the moon to appear red during a total eclipse. Because of its vivid color, a total lunar eclipse is often referred to by NASA as a blood red moon. What is the history of the blood moons? A total lunar eclipse producing a blood moon occurs at least twice per year. Most of us have seen the moon when its appearance has changed to red. Something else we need to know. What is meant by a tetrad? NASA calls 4 consecutive blood moons, normally about 6 months apart, a tetrad. From 1 AD until 2013 AD, there have been 55 tetrads. So it happens fairly infrequently, but nevertheless not too infrequently. However, when you talk about tetrads matching feast days, this is rare. The teaching of the 4 blood moons states that when tetrads match Jewish feast dates, a major event affecting the Jews will occur. The total number of tetrads matching Jewish feast dates from 1 AD until 2013 AD is only 10. 7 of those 10 tetrads occurred before 1492. Only 3 tetrads matching Jewish feast days have occurred since 1492 in over 500 years. Now, 3 tetrads on Jewish feast days have happened in the past 500 years. Those dates were 1493 through 1494, 1949 through 1950, and 1967 through 1968. Major events affecting the Jewish people have occurred in close proximity to all of these 3 tetrads. Let me just list those for you. In 1492, just before the tetrad of 93 and 94, the Spanish Inquisition occurred. This was a huge event in Jewish history. In 1492, King Ferdinand and Queen Isabella of Spain gave the Jewish population a mere 4 months to convert to Catholicism or leave the country. It is estimated that between 165,000 and 400,000 Jews fled the country during this 4-month period. As many as 50,000 decided to stay, converting to Roman Catholicism. Now, the Spanish Inquisition sought to punish Jews who said they converted to Christianity but were not really sincere in their conversions. Publicly, they practiced Catholicism, but privately, they still were practicing Jews. Torture was used to elicit confessions from these false converts. After confessing, many of them were then burned at the stake. There's a great deal of treachery in this. First, you tell people they have to convert or die. Then, when they do convert, you decide to kill them anyway because their conversions are not sincere. This is what happened in the Spanish Inquisition. Now, there's another interesting twist to 1492 because that's the year Columbus discovered America. Many historians now believe that Christopher Columbus was secretly Jewish. They believe his voyage to the West in 1492 was his way of escaping the Spanish Inquisition of that year and consequently resulted in his discovery of America. In Simon Wiesenthal's book, Sails of Hope, he argues that Columbus's voyage was motivated by a desire to find a safe haven for the Jews in light of their expulsion from Spain. The studies of Carol Delaney of Stanford University led her to believe that Columbus was a deeply religious man whose purpose was to sail to Asia to obtain gold in order to finance a crusade to take back Jerusalem and rebuild the Jews' holy temple. Columbus's voyage was not, as is commonly believed, funded by the deep pockets of Queen Isabella, but rather by two Jews who converted to Catholicism to avoid death, and another prominent Jew, Louis de Sant'Angelo, and Gabriel Sanchez advanced an interest-free loan of 17,000 ducats from their own pockets to help pay for the voyage, as did Don Isaac Abravanel, rabbi and Jewish statesman. Okay, now let's go to 1948. This is the next tetrad coinciding with the Jewish feast days. Of course, all of you know that Israel was reborn on May 14, 1948, just before the tetrad of 1949 and 1950. After the destruction of Jerusalem by the Romans in 70 AD, Jews were driven into exile for the next 1,878 years. The Jewish people were sifted through the nations of the earth, yet they retained their identity. After Hitler's horrible Holocaust, the Jews were finally granted a homeland by the nations of the world. On May 14, 1948, the modern state of Israel was born. The next tetrad occurred in 1967 and 68. In 1967, the Six-Day War broke out. The city of Jerusalem was reunited, now for the first time under Jewish control since 70 AD. This is so important because God said that He would place His name in Jerusalem. For 2,000 years, religious Jews had been praying 3 times each day for the restoration of Jerusalem and the rebuilding of the temple. Well, it happened in 1967, again a major event coinciding to a tetrad which harmonized with Jewish feast days. Now, let's focus on this point and let's not miss this. All 3 of these tetrads were on Jewish feast days, and in close proximity to their dates, major Jewish events occurred. Now, the only 3 tetrads matching feast days in the last 500 years have all fallen remarkably close to major events in Jewish history. Now, it's about to happen for the 4th time. There are 4 blood moons just ahead. According to NASA, they will occur on April the 15th, 2014, October 8, 2014, April 4th, 2015, and September 28, 2015. We have to ask the question, do these 4 blood moons coincide with feast days? They do. April 15, 2014 is Passover. October 8, 2014 is the Feast of Tabernacles. April 4, 2015 is again Passover. September 28, 2015, the Feast of Tabernacles. Some prophecy teachers are declaring boldly that something is getting ready to happen that will change the world forever in the proximity of the time of this 4 blood moons coinciding with Jewish feast days. Now, some people ask, should we pay attention to the moon and the stars? Back in the book of Genesis, the first book of the Bible, chapter 1, verse 14, God said, "Let there be lights in the firmament of the heaven to divide the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years." Notice, let them be for signs. So it's not necessarily pagan to observe the signs. Now, we know that we're not into astrology, but at the same time, the scripture does say that the firmament was placed there, and let them be for signs. Oh, by the way, the wise men were led to Jesus by a star. Matthew chapter 2, verse 1. Now, when Jesus was born in Bethlehem of Judea, in the days of Herod the king, behold, there came wise men from the east to Jerusalem, saying, "Where is he that is born King of the Jews? For we have seen his star in the east, and are come to worship him." Later on in the same chapter, verse 9, when they had heard the king, they departed, and lo, the star which they saw in the east went before them till it came and stood over where the young child Jesus was. When they saw the star, they rejoiced with exceeding great joy. So God has at times used stars, used the heavens to indicate things to mankind. Now, let's talk about the prophecy of the moon being turned into blood. Joel chapter number 2, verse 30 through 31 says, "In the end time, and I will show wonders in the heavens and in the earth, blood and fire and pillars of smoke. The sun shall be turned into darkness and the moon into blood before the great and terrible day of the Lord come." Revelation 6:12 says the same thing. "And I beheld when he had opened the 6th seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood." We have these prophecies of the end time that the moon is going to be turned into blood. We have to ask ourselves, however, does this literally mean the moon is going to be turned into blood? It's not reasonable to believe the entire moon is going to become blood. The prophecy undoubtedly means that the moon will take on the appearance of blood. It's going to be one of those signs in the heavens. So, what can we expect to happen? If these 4 blood moons that are scheduled just ahead of us now, April 15, 2014 through September 28, 2015, if these 4 blood moons, since they do coincide with Jewish feast days, do they have a special meaning for us? Well, if the pattern of the last 3 tetrads continues, then we can expect some major event for the Jewish people. We have to ask ourselves, so is there a big event on the horizon? The Bible teaches that an event is coming just ahead of us now that will be the greatest prophetic fulfillment in the last 2,000 years. I'm talking about greater than the rebirth of the nation of Israel, greater than the reunification of Jerusalem. The Bible prophesies a peace treaty between Palestinians and Israelis. And when this peace treaty is signed, it will mark the beginning of the final 7 years to the Battle of Armageddon and the second coming of Jesus Christ. Now, U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry launched peace talks on July the 30th of 2013 between Palestinians and Israelis. He said, give me 9 months. He set the deadline of April 29, 2014 for reaching an agreement. So, will he make this agreement? We're going to talk about that in a moment. But let's talk about whenever this agreement happens. It's going to happen. The Bible prophesies it's going to happen. Whether it happens April the 29th of 2014, like U.S. Secretary of State John Kerry says, or not, it is going to happen. When it does happen, what will it mean to all of us? One, it will mark the beginning of the final 7 years to Armageddon, as I said earlier. Two, the Antichrist and the international community will recognize Israel's right to a homeland in the Holy Land. That's one of the biggest disputes out there right now. Does Israel have a right to exist? Out of 22 Arab states, 20 of them say no. They have refused to recognize Israel's right to exist. So when this agreement is signed, the Antichrist and the international community will recognize Israel's right to a homeland in the Holy Land. Three, a Palestinian state will be created in the West Bank, the area known as Judea. Four, many of the Jews presently living in Judea will decide to remain in their homes, living as a Jewish minority in the new Palestinian state. Now, you can see as we're moving down through here how dramatic all of these things are and how much they're actually going to affect the Jewish people and the future of the Jewish people. Number five, the Temple Mount dispute will be solved by placing it under a sharing arrangement between Muslims and Jews. One of the biggest disputes in the world is over that 35 acres of ground where the Dome of the Rock stands, where the Al-Aqsa Mosque stands, where the first temple stood, the second temple stood, and where the Jews want to soon build their third temple. How are you going to solve that dilemma? Well, it's going to be placed under a sharing arrangement. The Bible says it, and President Bill Clinton proposed it at Camp David in the year 2000. More recently, on November the 1st of 2013, a bill was introduced into the Israeli Knesset to place the Temple Mount under a sharing arrangement. That's going to be one of the things that happens under this peace agreement that is soon to come, which John Kerry hopes to complete by April 29, 2014. Number six, Israel will build her third temple on the Temple Mount. Once the agreement is struck, they will build it without disturbing the Dome of the Rock or the Al-Aqsa Mosque. Israel's temple will be completed during the first 3.5 years. This agreement is going to be a 7-year agreement. In the first 3.5 years, Israel's going to complete her temple. Halfway through the final 7 years, the Antichrist will stand on the Temple Mount, claiming to be the Messiah and claiming to be God. The scriptures call this event the abomination of desolation. Now, all of this tells us things that are coming in the very near future. Will this be a part of the tetrad just ahead that will occur, first of all, April 15 of 2014? We don't know that for sure. However, we know for certain this agreement is going to be signed, and we also know that halfway through the 7 years of this agreement, there's going to be another Jewish Holocaust triggered. Jesus is the one who prophesied about it in Matthew chapter 24, verse 15 through 18. He said, "When you therefore shall see the abomination of desolation spoken of by Daniel the prophet stand in the holy place, whoso readeth, let him understand, then let them which be in Judea flee into the mountains. Let him which is on the housetop not come down to take anything out of his house, neither let him which is in the field return back to take his clothes. Now notice what he says. When you see the Antichrist stand on the Temple Mount claiming to be Messiah and God, then those of you that decided to stay in Judea, living as a Jewish minority under the Palestinian state, you're going to have to run for your life, because verse 21, then shall be great tribulation, such as was not since the beginning of the world, to this time, no, nor ever shall be. The prophecy was given by Jesus himself 2,000 years ago, but it's going to be fulfilled in the very, very near future. If they get a peace deal by April the 29th, then this will be fulfilled 3.5 years after that. Now, as previously explained, the prophesied peace agreement will create a Palestinian state in Judea. 650,000 Jews live in Judea right now. Some of them will remain in Judea in the Palestinian state, living as a Jewish minority. When this abomination of desolation occurs, the Palestinians will launch an all-out attack on the Jews living amongst them. I don't know for sure what there's going to be about the Antichrist standing on the Temple Mount saying, I'm in charge here. But there's going to be something about that that's going to trigger the Palestinian anger, and they're going to begin to slaughter the Jewish people living among them. Now, since we know this is coming, we must warn them. The Jews of Judea don't realize the extreme danger that lies ahead for them. They don't believe in Jesus. Consequently, they don't study the New Testament. And yet we do, and we know that the prophecies always come to pass. This is our chance. We're talking about 3 or 4 years from now, maybe 5, depending on when the treaty is concluded. But this is our chance to help the Jewish people. They gave us our Bible. They gave us our Messiah. Now we can help them at this strategic time in their life. Now, we can warn them. Here's what we plan to do. End Time Ministries plans to put a magazine in every home in Israel, 2.27 million of them. The magazine is going to say in big bold letters across the top, warning, final 7 years to Armageddon just began. What to do? See inside. We're going to explain the prophecy in the magazine. We're going to devote a special part of it to the people living out there in Judea. We're going to allow them to see what's coming before it ever happens. That's what we want to do to help the Jewish people. Now, here's the goal. Explain the prophecy. We'll dedicate a section to the people of Judea. If they listen to our warning, they will escape. Every single one that listens will escape. The only ones that will end up being slaughtered are those who won't listen. Now, in the magazine, we're going to advertise our daily television program available worldwide on the internet. We're going to offer a free subscription to our Prophecy e-newsletter. We're going to tell them about our Jerusalem Prophecy College in downtown Jerusalem that they can attend to learn more about these things. And we're going to advertise our 14-lesson DVD series, Understanding the End Time. Now, you can help the Jews in this time of their greatest need. We estimate that it will cost $1.8 million to print and distribute a magazine to all 2.27 million homes in Israel. We've already raised $800,000 toward this project. The wonderful people that follow End Time Ministries has done that already. This only leaves $1 million yet to warn the Jews of the coming Holocaust. Now, I know $1 million sounds like quite a bit of money, but really the plan is simple. Here's how we can do it. We simply need 2,000 people to contribute $500 toward this great cause. To all who will contribute $500 or more to the Israel Project, we want to give you a special gift of appreciation. We have a new DVD, Israel's Future According to Bible Prophecy. This is the message I gave at our Jerusalem Prophecy Conference in downtown Jerusalem in November the 2nd of 2013. We had 200 Jewish people there. This DVD is not for sale. We are reserving it as a special gift to all who will contribute to save the Jews from the Holocaust that lies just ahead. Now, we know God said to Abraham in Genesis 12:3, "And I will bless them that bless thee, and I will curse them that curse thee." This is our chance to be a blessing to the Jewish people at this time of their greatest need. To donate to the Israel Project, simply call 1-800-IND-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463. Or you can donate online at www.endtime.com. That's simply endtime.com. John Kerry has set the goal of having the peace agreement by April 29, 2014. If he is successful, we need to mail to every home in Israel within 30 days of the signing of the agreement. Are we sure the final 7 years will begin April 29, 2014? No, that's a date John Kerry has set. But we're absolutely certain a peace agreement is coming, and all these things need to be taken care of. We can't wait. If they do get the treaty signed by April 29, 2014, we must be ready. If we miss this opportunity, we won't get another chance. So the need is urgent. All we need to accomplish this prophetic goal is for 2,000 people to contribute $500 or more to the Israel Project. If God's blessed you where you can, please do it. The number to call is 1-800-IND-TIME. That's 1-800-363-8463. Or you can donate at endtime.com. In our next segment, we will learn what the Bible's prophecies teach about the sun becoming dark and the moon being turned into blood. We will see when the scriptures say these things will happen. Don't miss it.
Do you want to know more about Bible prophecy? Join Irvin Baxter in Shreveport, Louisiana on April 5th and 6th and in Plymouth, Michigan on April 18th. Go to endtime.com for more information or call 1-800-IND-TIME.